And now, our feature presentation.
I like it spooky.
Hey everybody, welcome to I Like It Spooky Horror Podcast. I'm Bryan.
I am Clint, and once again we are joined here in the spooky studio by the Johnny Cash sound-alike, Velvet Freight Train voiced, Mr. Bryan Clark.
Holy shit, Velvet Freight Train is my new favorite nickname. That is fantastic. Did you come up with that on the spot, or have you been thinking about that all week?
I came up with that about an hour ago.
Wow. Well, that is a fine compliment. Hello, everyone.
I'll give you the other one that I came up with. Right now, I feel like I'm on Spaceballs, but instead of how many assholes do we got on this ship, it's how many Bryans do we've got on this show?
I'll take Velvet Freight Train. That's
okay. We'll go with that one. Yeah. There's no segue to the news from that. It's freight trains and assholes. Let's just go to the news.
So my news has been around for, months, since October of last year. It just never leaked out anywhere, and I knew about it, and it kind of just slipped my mind. But if you watched The Last Drive-In, they did a Roger Corman double feature from the Jamboree last year in Vegas. And one of the things that Roger talked about was Little Shop of Halloween Horrors. Joe Dante directing a horror movie written by Gremlins 2 writer based on Little Shop of Horrors from Roger Corman.
So what's the Halloween aspect? Does it go into detail?
I think they just want to make it more horror, add more horror elements to it. They didn't really say make the plant bigger. Have you seen the remake where they have the two endings?
Oh, you think they might be going for the kaiju ending?
Where like the plant becomes huge, like is going through cities and like terrorizing people.
It's like the end of the Deadly Spawn.
I'm so uncultured. I have not seen that ending. I must go watch now.
It was the unfun ending, so they took it out of the movie, and then it leaked back in with special features and whatnot.
You definitely have my interest, because when you throw the word Halloween in there, it just opens up the door to so many possibilities. When you say Little Shop of Horrors, you think musical, you think Audrey, you think, Steve Martin is the drugged up dentist, but you add that word Halloween, and who knows what could happen.
Yeah, and it's Joe Dante's directing. Charles Haas from Gremlins 2, the new batch, wrote the film, and it's got Roger Corman involved. And it's been in the works since October of last year, so I wonder how far they are into it. Like this is in production maybe, or this is getting to go to production soon.
Yeah, I'm down with all of those things. I don't mind the Steve Martin version and the Rick Moranis version, but I like the original better. I'm one of those, I know the musical is beloved, but I just give me a straightforward story about a plant monster eating people. And being written by the guy who did Gremlins 2, and of course directed by Joe Dante. Writers can write different types of things, I understand, but that makes me wonder if it's going to be even weirder, because Gremlins 2 is pretty fucking weird.
Right.
We like the musical because Finley's going through that phase where everything musical she loves. We watched the new Color Purple the other day, and she's like clapping along to that. And then we've been watching Wonka a lot, the new Willy Wonka movie, and Barbie, and everything musical she wants to dance and sing to. So maybe I'll throw Rocky Horror Picture Show on tonight, see what happens.
There you go.
I'm with you, Bryan Clark. I usually gravitate towards the originals, just the authenticity, of that first rendition of a story, which is why I'm kind of curious why we didn't cover the original Godzilla. We're talking about Son of Godzilla here in a little bit. We'll get into that in a little bit. I want to hear what Bryan's got, because whenever Bryan Clark's in the show, we always really discuss a interesting movie. So, I'm really curious to hear what kind of news you have for us.
Well, it's not so much of film production news as a bit of convention excitement. G-Fest, the annual Godzilla convention that takes place in Chicago in July, just announced their first guest this year, and it's someone that people have been clamoring for them to get for quite a long time. They're bringing Ayako Fujitani, who played Asagi in the 90s Gamera trilogy. And she's Steven Seagal's daughter, although she doesn't like to talk about that because Steven Seagal's kind of a chode. And she's actually a talented actress. So, yeah, it's pretty awesome. Those 90s Gamera movies are widely regarded as the best kaiju movies ever made. Most people still love Godzilla overall as a character, as a franchise more, but just for the peak of quality practical special effects, those 90s Gamera movies are untouchable.
I'm curious if she doesn't want to be under his shadow just because of his stardom so she can make her own name, or because, like you say, he's got a reputation of being kind of a jerk.
No, I'm pretty sure she just thinks he's an asshole.
We all went through that phase.
I mean, I'm still in the phase of thinking Steven Seagal is an asshole, so...
I was thinking more along the lines of we thought our parents were assholes, but...
Oh, I gotcha.
It just lasts long for some people, like forever.
Right.
I'm in the stage right now where my oldest thinks I'm an asshole.
Yeah, see? One day I will make it to G-Fest. One day.
I hope so, man. You get, Finley would just lose her mind going through that dealer room, looking at all those different toys. And I mean, I lose my mind every year and I know what to expect.
I don't know if I'll ever make my way to a G-Fest. I just can't get into that franchise as much as you guys. But with that said, you mentioned toys, and I've seen some awesome stuff. Bryan Godzilla has shown some awesome collectibles. Bryan Clark, last time you were on the show, you showed that amazing piece that you had, the Godzilla piece. So there's a lot of cool stuff out there. I've never really explored Godzilla a whole lot, but I've been thinking about watching a little bit of this and watching a little bit of that. I think I kind of want to get into like the Mecha Godzilla. I think that might spark my interest. So we might go exploring.
Next time you guys do a Godzilla movie, you should do the 74 Mecha Godzilla. And
I don't know if there's going to be a next time. There might be a next time.
Uh-oh. that doesn't bode well.
This is not a Clint-tatorship, so therefore there could very well be a next time.
So what do you got for news, Clint?
I don't know if this kind of falls in with the cryptid type theme, sort of. I noticed this a little while ago, and it's a story from bloodydisgusting.com about Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. The brand is being revived with official perfumes and candles. Yes, Attack of the Killer Tomato perfumes. It says 5 years after a reboot of the 1970 cult classic, which I don't remember there was a reboot. I must have missed that one. That they are making this really cool fragrance, and it comes to a dramatic climax with an earthly base of wild fern, wet soil, genuine Indonesian, some word I cannot pronounce, and South African buchu. And what is cool about this is, from a collectible stamp, first of all, it's just fun. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, the original, is a fun, great fucking movie. Perfume is amazing, but if you're a collectible, or if you're a collector, it comes in this like retro, the thick style VHS clamshell, cases.
Oh, that's cool.
So I think it's just a fun piece to have in the collection. I don't see anything here when or where it's going to be available, just so stay tuned. I'm going to be looking for this for sure.
It would be hilarious if they listed all those ingredients and all those different notes of fragrance that you're supposed to pick up, and then it just smelled like ketchup.
You're right. It just smells like fucking tomato sauce. Yeah, that's awesome.
You go to Five Guys and hang out and get hit on all day.
It does say here that the fragrance is also available as a soy blend candle in a tomato red tin with a VHS inspired label. The fragrance will be released as a air freshener in late March, with variants for the other films, including the franchise, or other films in the franchise, including Return of the Killer Tomatoes, famously one of George Clooney's first roles. Funny story about that. Boots, my youngest, when she was really young, we were sitting around one day and I was like, let's watch Return of the Killer Tomatoes. That's a decent, fun little horror flick a young kid could watch. And I had forgotten how much sex and blowjob jokes and all kinds of stuff was in that. And, within like 10 minutes, the guy who played Gomez Adams, I can't think of his name right now, he was the mad scientist and he created this beautiful, hot chick from a tomato and she's giving him a BJ. And I'm like, oh shit, we need to turn this off.
That's how mankind dies. Killer blowjobs from tomatoes.
What do I say about that?
Yeah. There's probably worse ways to go, right?
I guess so. I wonder if you have to pay for the tomato ones.
Nothing's free, Clint.
I know, because I'm poor.
Oh, what? Why are you poor?
So on this episode of Why Are We Poor, I have one thing. That's it. One thing. I have a bunch of things, but I want to share one thing because our guest probably has something way cooler than this. But I got another Joe Bob autograph.
Nice.
So Joe Bob's in this movie called Cryptids that just released from Scream Team Releasing, I think is who put the movie out. But they had a Indiegogo, Kickstarter, one of those. There's an artist rendition with Joe Bob interviewing Bigfoot and aliens, some kind of Loch Ness monster thing, and some devil. And it's autographed.
Was that a perk?
Yeah. And it was $20. So you get the print with an autograph for $20. I was like, I can't pass that up for $20.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
And the artwork's cool. I mean, 8x10. I'll frame it up and put it up.
How many Joe Bob autographs do you have now? Minus the tattoo on your ass cheek.
1, 2.
So you're going to have to take his shoes off to count all these.
8 or 10. Yeah. Only like 8 or 10. Oh, there's one down there that's not hung up. 11? Like 11.
Oh, I forgot the one I left on the floor.
One day, like 30 years from now, you're going to be on an episode of American Pickers where they drive by and they see all this stuff. And you're like, come in my Joe Bob room. And they're just going to look at all the Joe Bob memorabilia and all the autographs.
Well, probably the coolest thing, cooler than this, is Walgreens was having a sale on canvas prints, and I have a picture. I don't know. I think maybe Justin Beam took the picture or somebody took this picture at Flashback last year. And it's Joe Bob talking to Sven Gulli. And then in the background is the guy that's like Joe Bob's cameraman from The Last Drive-In talking to me. I got it made into a canvas, and I'm going to take it to Kansas City and have Joe Bob sign it, and then hopefully bring it to Chicago and have Sven Gulli sign it.
Nice.
I think that was Justin that took that picture, because I remember you coming over to the table, the inkmirrors.com table, and showing me that after it happened. Bryan Clark, you need to come hang out with us, man. You're missing out on a lot of fun moments. We do some really wacky shit.
You know, outside of Halloween-a-Palooza and Crypticon Minneapolis, which is quite small compared to the other Crypticons and horror hounds and Flashback and that kind of stuff, I've actually never been to a big horror convention. I kind of blow all my convention money at G-Fest every year. Yeah, so is Joe Bob coming? Kansas City, you said, is that their Crypticon? Is he coming to that this year, or what's in Kansas City?
Panic Fest.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, the film festival.
He's doing the Night of the Comet 40th anniversary. So I grabbed tickets to that because we're going to be in Kansas City for family vacation. And it worked out just right.
Oh, yeah. You didn't plan that at all, did you?
No, not at all.
I'd love to come hang out with you guys at a convention sometime, especially since I know we're never going to get Clint to come back to Halloween-a-Palooza or to set foot in the state of Iowa ever again.
No, I'll go. It's just I'm going to park my car on the Illinois border and someone's got to pick me up.
I went last year, I think it was last year, maybe 2 years ago. There was a big Willis O'Brien exhibit in Michigan that I wish I could have made it up there for. But yeah, I'd like to come to something in Michigan too. I used to drive through all the time for work, but I've never been there to just like visit and do stuff.
There is, and I'm, not to sit here and plug Michigan, but if you ever listen to Mishmash, or any of the listeners ever listen to Mishmash, we put that out with Leah Stalker from Pure Macabre bi-monthly, where she just covers spooky and creepy and fun haunting events in Michigan. There's always a lot going on. It's almost oversaturated. There's so much to choose from. And as a haunted attraction owner here, I've preached for years that it is hard to get steady business, especially during, October, because you're competing with so many great events where people 20 miles away might not come see you because they've got their own stuff going on in their backyard.
Yeah, kind of a flooded market.
Yeah, absolutely. You should come hang out at Flashback with us this August. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, that's one I always like to go to.
I will go back to Halloween-a-Palooza. I was actually going to go last year. Remember, it was the same weekend that the double feature at the Orpheum was put on with Severin Films. And so the plan was I was going to come down, go to Halloween-a-Palooza, then go to that. But the days got mixed up in my head. And plus, I was taking my youngest to the Redford Theater in Detroit to see Claudio Simonetti's band perform Demons that Friday, so it just got out of hand. But I'll be back as long as someone picks me up at the Illinois border.
For sure. Well, talking about flooded markets, I guess I will show off my little item. Last weekend I went up to Minneapolis to see The Dead Next Door with J.R. Bookwalter there doing a Q&A and signing stuff. And so, of course, I had to stop by my favorite store in the whole world, Dreamhaven, which is this amazing sci-fi and horror comic book, some collectibles, but mostly print stuff store, and I picked up this quite rare novelization of Paul Naschy's The Werewolf versus the Vampire Woman. I was also dropping off some copies of my novelization of Beast from Haunted Caves. So it always makes me so happy that my books are on the shelves in this awesome store. But anyway, as I was checking out, Lisa, one of the owners, goes, I've read a little bit of that Werewolf versus the Vampire Woman book. And I just want to tell you that if you ever have any doubts about if you did a good job or not in your novelization, it can't be any worse than that. I said, well, that really inspires confidence in this purchase, considering how much I'm spending on this dumb little book. But I love Paul Naschy movies, and I love movie novelizations, so I had to add that one to my collection.
That story that you said that Lisa was telling you was like the setup for this great, attaboy, I love your story. And then it turned into this, well, but it can't be this bad, so you're okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. I remember you talking about that place when you were on the show last time. I remember you painted the picture that if I ever get out that way, that I want to stop in and check that out. Bryan Godzilla and I are always plugging our own locals.
Yeah, I swear I don't work for them or anything. I just plug them every chance I get because I love that store so much.
I know. We know that your books are on the shelves there because of your talent, not because of the cheap plugs that you give them. I know.
So what'd you get, Clint? Anything?
I got nothing. I keep buying paint, but I'm not going to talk about all that stuff. I have not really spent any money this go around that I haven't already talked about, but I do want to talk about something coming up sometime in the fall. So the week after this recording, the new Ghostbusters movie comes out, which I'm excited about. We've talked about on the show here and there. I came across that sometime this fall, there's going to be a couple Transformers coming out, and they're going to be Ghostbuster Transformer crossovers. One of them is Optimus Prime, and he's painted white, and then he's got the red Ghostbuster logo on him.
People of Earth, my name is Optimus Prime, and I have a message for you all.
Who you gonna call?
Ghostbusters! And the other one was both of these are Autobots. The other one was a red Ecto-1, hearse, was that a 58 hearse Transformer that I did not see transformed into the robot. I just saw as a hearse. Keep your eye out for that. It's coming this fall, which I know is a little ways away. If you're a collector, if you're a Ghostbusters fan, a Transformers fan, they've done stuff like this before, and it's like anything else anymore. It'll come out and it'll hit the ground running and it'll be affordable, and then a week or a month or whatever later, you can't get them, and they're worth $1 gajillion.
Because they did an Ecto-1, an Ectotron, I think they called it. There was a Target exclusive version that came with an extra ghost, and I think GameStop carried them in that. And I, like an idiot, I wanted it, but like an idiot, I didn't buy it. And now they're fairly expensive on the aftermarket. But
I think it's like $150, $200. The whole collectible market's actually dropped a little bit, so things are a little more affordable, but still expensive.
So is this red one, do you think, is this just a retooling of that previous, or repaint of that previous Ecto?
It looked like it, but again, I didn't see any pictures of it transformed into the robot form. So it looked real similar. But I mean, Ecto-1 looks like Ecto-1, so it could be something different. Because actually, I think the version you're talking about was white, and this is red. So maybe it is just kind of like a variant.
Yeah, the first one that came out was just the regular Ecto-1 paint job. But I do love me some Transformers, so might have to pick that up since I missed the first one.
Well, it sounds to me like we need to save some money to buy those things and to buy Bryan's book. And if Bryan Godzilla needs to save money or get some money for more Joe Bob autographs, because there's going to be more coming down the pipeline. I don't know, maybe we should take it to a sponsor and start saving some cash.
It's showtime!
The I Like It Spooky Horror podcast doesn't just talk about horror, we screen it for you also. After the success of the double feature showing at the Galesburg Orpheum last October, we are at it again, this time in cooperation with TerraVision, bringing you 2 films on the big screen of the Capitol Theater located at 211 North 3rd Street in Burlington, Iowa, Saturday, April 6th. Doors open at 6 and the movies roll at 7, including Blood Car and Slashers. Tickets are just $8 at the door, which is a small price to pay for a chance to hang with spooky co-host Bryan and help him celebrate his birthday. For more info, visit burlingtoncapitoltheater.com, and we will see you at the movies.
So now that we've heard from our sponsor, it's time for the movie, the 1967, one of my favorite Godzilla movies, and definitely Finley's favorite Godzilla movie, because she's 5 and she has great taste. Son of Godzilla. Did you know Godzilla was a girl, Clint? Did you know that? But is he a girl?
No, because they referred to Godzilla in Son of Godzilla as he.
Yeah, but I don't think Godzilla's a he.
Yeah, but Godzilla is a reptile. It's parthenogenesis, reproducing without having sex.
That is one of the reasons we have you on the show, because I would have never been able to articulate that thought even if I had it. So thank you.
Most of the time in the Japanese, in the original scripts and in Toho's official stuff, the monsters are all referred to as it. That is what they prefer. But since the whole moniker of King of the Monsters came out, it's us Westerners who have these monster gendering hangups. They really don't care about that so much in Japan.
I think, though, with Son of Godzilla, you do sort of have to have some sort of gender in there on the biological level, because we're talking about reproduction. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I just know that in Son of Godzilla, there was an egg buried in a rock and these giant radioactive praying mantises who looked pretty cool. By the way, their movements and everything, they were fun. I love the eyes. Just decided to all gather around this giant rock and beat with their claws and break it open, and then found the egg and then fucking beat the egg open, and then found the Son of Godzilla and tried to break that open.
That was the movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
This has one of the better stories of the Godzilla films, wouldn't you say?
Really?
You didn't like the story?
No, I didn't say that at all. I was just following along here.
No, I love the story of the scientists working on Sollgel Island who, using an isolated area so they don't, fuck up a major city or something, trying to work on this weather control, which silver iodide really is used in cloud seeding. How well it works is debatable, but the science in this movie is actually half-assedly real science, although it doesn't look quite the way that the special effects portray it, of course. But
I did pick up on that, and I did enjoy that about this film was that part, because you hear conspiracy theories, about how the government controls the weather and things like that. And so I just thought it was interesting to go back to the late 60s and see that portrayed on film, seeing that thought and that theory. But I tell you one thing that I will say, in my opinion, is completely unrealistic about this film. Oh, here you go. You guys have been waiting. They've been chomping at the bit for me to tell everybody how much I didn't like this movie. And I think they're going to be off, sort of. But one of the most unrealistic things about this film is you have this island full of these men, and one of them is breaking down from heat exhaustion because they've been there 3+ months, and it's just, they're probably like at the equator, you know what I mean? It's just miserably humid hot. And then they come across this one lone, beautiful islander woman. Like, I didn't want it to turn into a porn or anything like that, but there was no interest in her. It's like, oh, there she is. Now let's keep working on her science. Bullshit. Unrealistic.
Well, I mean, Goro Maki and her kind of develop a little bit of a relationship, even though there's no indication that it's anything sexual. He almost seems more protective of her, like a little sister sort of a thing.
Agreed. And that's what I'm saying is you take that situation. It's kind of like if you were to drop a beautiful woman into a prison or on a Navy ship where, no one has seen a woman in forever and no one even batted an eye. They're like, let's give her some pants and a shirt.
This movie was made for children, though. You're not going to have that kind of thing kids aren't even going to understand that. I think the more innocent version of the relationship that you do see in the movie would be more understandable to a little kid than like wanting to smooch on her. The guy who's breaking down from heat exhaustion, by that's the great Yoshio Tsuchiya, who he plays crazy like nobody else, and he has such weird, interesting roles. He's the Planet X commander in Monster Zero, and he invented a language for himself to speak in that movie. Like he's just wild. I love him. I love everybody in this movie, though. Beverly Maeda, she's the one who plays Psycho. It's too bad she never did another one of these things, because she, there's Kumi Mizuno, who's the most well-known one. Probably she was in the most of these, and Akiko Wakabayashi, who was also a Bond girl. I think Beverly Maeda could have easily been every bit as big of a Toho science fiction beauty icon. I don't want to sound pervy about it, I guess, but yeah, she is quite stunning. Yeah.
No, she was beautiful. She was beautiful. Great stage or film presence. I always go to the theater side of things, but my experience with this film, it actually started. Have you ever went to pop a bag of popcorn and it only like half of it pops and the rest of it's just like sizzly butter and you're kind of disappointed? That's exactly how my experience started last night when I sat down to watch this. So I just kind of went into it like, oh man,
So it was just sour from the beginning.
Yeah, it was. But I will say that all of the acting was done really well. I had no issue with anybody's performances. I had issue with the dialogue. I know it was made for kids. I get it. I realized into it that it was more. I had no idea what I was getting into. So when I think Godzilla, I think monster, radioactivity, radiation, smashing the city. They got a nuke Godzilla to get him back to the ocean. And it wasn't that at all. It was a comedy. It was made for children. But I also thought a lot of the dialogue was just kind of awkward and clunky. But then I didn't know if some of that was, because I watched the dub version, was some of that lost in translation. But it was not what I was expecting.
Yeah, this and Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, a lot of fans generally refer to as the Island films. And for a long time, they were disregarded for pretty much exactly the reasons you were laying out, that people thought they were cheap because there were no city sets. Like, oh, you're saving money. The monsters are just walking through trees. That's not interesting. And I can understand coming at it from the perspective of you've only seen maybe one or two of these things, and you have the preconceived notions of you want the city smashing and the more serious story. But when you've watched all 38, 39 of these things, they make kind of a refreshing change of pace because all of the other ones are like that, you know? So it's kind of nice.
Where does Son of Godzilla fall into, like, was it the 7th movie, the 12th movie, the 3rd movie?
8th.
The 8th movie?
Yeah, it was the 8th film in the series, and it was the second one to be on an island in a row early in the series, but maybe because it didn't do well or it wasn't received well, they kind of went away from the island thing, went back to the cities, or they went to space, or they went to Monster Island.
So to Bryan Clark's point, do you think at this point, you said it was the 8th film in the franchise, do you think at this point, to his point, he was like, let's take it in a different direction. We're burning people out, regurgitating the same shit. Let's try something different. Do you think, or were they trying to like maybe reinvent the franchise, and that's why it was more of a comedy and geared towards kids to bring in a younger generation, do you think?
Well, they were definitely gearing them towards kids more at this point. The movies were starting to be shown not in general wide theatrical release, but at something called the Matsuri Champion Festival, which was these big movie festivals that were designed to coincide with breaks from school. So they'd have one in winter, they'd have one in the summer, and they'd show a couple of movies and maybe an episode of Ultraman or some cartoons or whatever. Eventually they started showing Disney cartoons, and those became so popular that Toho stopped spending money on Godzilla movies to just license Disney stuff. They're Disney's distributor in Japan. So goddamn fucking Mickey Mouse is what killed Godzilla in the 70s. But it was intended just to be cheap. I don't think they were trying to innovate by doing this, because they made King Kong Escapes the same year as this. And that, because it was such a big co-production with Rankin Bass, I almost said Hanna-Barbera, that Toho spent all the sci-fi movie money they had that year on and that's, Ishiro Honda directed that one. Eiji Tsuburaya did the effects. This was directed by Jun Fukuda, who was kind of the second go-to guy if they couldn't get Honda to do one of these things. And the special effects fell to Tsuburaya's main cameraman, Sadamasa Arakawa. So this was kind of done on the cheap by the B Squad because they were spending all their money on King Kong Escapes, and they already had all the island sets from Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, so they could just reuse all this stuff.
And see, that's something I noticed too, because again, I'm not as fluent in Godzilla, but I had seen a couple, and I remembered a little bit. When I was a kid, I saw some, and I was when you first see Godzilla come up out of the water to come rescue Godzilla's son, who's being attacked by the giant praying mantises. It just looked so cheap, and it wasn't what I remembered, And then like the first thing I saw, and it's funny because this is coming out right around Easter time, was Godzilla's eyes when Godzilla came out of the water. It looked like the chocolate Easter bunny eye. You get the big chocolate Easter bunny, and they were almost like cross-eyed outwards and big and yellow, and just kind of like. So I noticed that. But with that said, I still appreciated the sets. I appreciated the models. Just like in Green Slime, the movie we just covered, you knew they were sets, but they were well done. Maybe not as detailed because we were on an island, so the resources were limited as opposed to a metropolitan area, or something like that.
And I was going to ask you about knowing how much you love the Green Slime, how you could not enjoy something like this, but I think you already kind of answered that question. The
Green Slime episode just came out right before we were recording right now, so you probably have not had a chance to listen to it.
No.
So I'll give you the answer, even though you can go back and listen. And Green Slime fight me on this one. Green Slime, in essence, is a zombie film. Green Slime, in essence, the story of that film is very Night of the Living Dead. You have your two leads, and they're fighting over control, just like you had in Night of the Living Dead with Ben and Harry Cooper fighting over who's going to control the house. You have this mass-producing, unkillable force trying to kill you and overtake the world. There's human extinction. So it's actually the although it's done in the Toho way and it's very science fiction-y, it's very covers some scary things. So that movie always stuck out to me with the horror from that, as opposed to Godzilla films are kind of like, here's this monster, we need to nuke it so it doesn't destroy the city.
Okay, yeah, and I've never thought of Green Slime in that way before, but I see your point, and I love that movie too. Have you seen? We're getting a little off track here. Have you seen Matango?
No.
Ooh, you want to talk about a Toho zombie movie? You need to see Matango.
I will write this down right now.
I think you'd really like that one, and that also has Akira Kubo in it, who is our main character of Goro Maki. When I went to Japan in 2019, one of the things that the guy who organized the trip put together for us is we got to have dinner with a bunch of Toho stars from the old science fiction movies. So and Akira Kubo was one of them, and they kind of did this thing where our group was sitting at several different tables, and they sort of rotated each celebrity would sit at our table for 15-20 minutes and chat with everyone, and then they get up and move to the next table, and then so everyone got a chance to talk to these people equally. So I got to Akira Kubo poured me a beer, because that's a tradition in Japan. Is if you're sitting with somebody who has some sort of more stature, it's polite for the person who's sort of the guest of honor, or however you want to put that, to pour drinks for the people they're sitting with. So I got to kanpai with Akira Kubo, and that is a memory I will treasure forever.
I love Matango.
Yeah,
it's such a fun, like you said, Toho zombie film. Not zombies per se, but zombies in a way.
But in spirit.
But yeah, that's an isolated, and yeah, that was one that I never even thought to talk about or cover on the show, just because I know this isn't really Clint's wheelhouse, and I don't know if I didn't have the connection with this with my daughter, who's 5, that this would be one of my favorites either. I mean, it does have probably one of the better stories from a Godzilla film. Usually Godzilla's, like Clint said, they're destroying the city. They're all kind of recycled stories. You go for the special effects and the Godzilla suit. But this is one we've watched in English. We've watched in Japanese, undubbed. We can put it on and we just watch it. We watched it last night. We ordered pizza. We stayed up late because we both took a nap, and we're watching Godzilla at midnight on a Saturday night. And that's for a parent who loves horror movies, and this is perfect gateway science fiction. Bring your kids along. We've been covering a lot of that lately, Clint, which I really enjoy. That's what Green Slime is too. It's that perfect blend of usher your children along into horror and science fiction.
No, it is. And I mean, we talked about when we covered Green Slime that it's almost like the dad joke. My kids don't necessarily enjoy that film as much as I do, or really at all. But it's turned into this fun family thing, where something will come up and I'll start singing Green Slime and we all laugh and they roll their eyes and try to run away. And I chase them, keep singing it, So it's become integrated into our family, just like you're saying this movie is with you and Finley. So I appreciate that. I also watched this movie last night around midnight. With one of my children, because my oldest walked out from her bedroom into the kitchen and looked up and started snickering and said, basically, she didn't say this, but basically she was like, "What the fuck are you watching?" And I just kind of looked at her and shook my head, and I'm like, I don't know. I got to watch this for the show.
At 5, Finley thinks the little Godzilla is the cutest thing. And, there's the new King Kong Godzilla movie coming out, and there's little snippets of the baby King Kong in that. And she just is thrilled to see a baby King Kong.
You got to show her Space Godzilla. The little Godzilla in that is so adorable. I think Minya in this is actually kind of disturbingly ugly, especially the first hatched version that's just a little puppet, not later on when he's March on the Dwarf in the suit. There is a bit of horror in this, though, as you were talking about this being a gateway thing, because Kumanga is fucking creepy. The giant spider. Yeah.
Yes. So I was going to say, I thought that and you're talking about their budget, which was a little apparent, but I didn't understand, what they actually dealt with the budget. So I'm glad you said that, Bryan Clark. But yeah, it looked like they were trying so hard to put these certain characteristics into Godzilla and into baby Godzilla that they kind of got lost along the way. But the look of the praying mantis and the look of the spider were fantastic. And the budget was like $900,000 for this film. And I can only imagine that's where a lot of the money went to. This movie almost lost me. I was having a real hard time staying with it. And then I was starting to nod. It was late. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to watch all this. The spider came up and I was like, kind of, ooh, and that spider was creepy. It was scary.
Both Kumanga and the Kamacuras, the praying mantises, were all, those aren't guys in suits. Those are giant marionettes, essentially. And Kumanga took 2 to 3 people per leg to make it move. So you've got over 20 puppeteers scrambling around the rafters of the Toho sound stage, making, all coordinating, all trying to keep their lines from getting crossed as they're making these huge legs move. And just the choreography they had to go through to get all that right. And the scene where Godzilla's fighting all 3 Kamacuras and they're crossing back and forth, over each other. Godzilla's grabbing them, throwing them around. Now people look at that and, would laugh because, it's cheesy, it's rubber monsters or whatever. But to think about the work and the planning and the craft it took to pull that off, the behind the scenes effort is just phenomenal on these movies.
Especially with the spider, because not at one point did I look at that and say that movement was silly or that was cheesy. It was all very fluid, very realistic. For me, the spider and the hard work and the movement of that spider, again, because it's a puppet, it kept me to the end of the movie.
And we almost didn't get any of those things. This originally started life as a script called Two Godzillas, Japan SOS. That was the original title. They did have those scientists doing experiments on the island, but it wasn't the crew you see here. It was Psycho and her father, who was still alive, had not been killed by Kumanga, doing the experiments. And they wake up Godzilla and his son, who, there's no hatching. There's just another Godzilla because the script said so. And they leave Sollgel Island and head for Japan and attack. And the only other monster in the movie is they fight some giant clams at the very beginning, which would not have been very spectacular because all they can do is snap open and shut, and then they just go to Japan and fight the military.
You see him just fly across,
Right.
That's almost sort of like a prequel to the story then, because in this story you find out that the woman who inhabits the island, she was there with her father, who was a scientist, a decade prior or something like that, and that he was, I can't remember if he was killed or he just died.
Yeah, Kumanga ate him.
Yeah, the spider ate him.
So they could almost do that as a prequel, I suppose. But
yeah, and this had 2 suits from what I saw. There was a smaller suit, and then there was a bigger suit because they wanted Godzilla to kind of have that parent feel. One of the actors broke his fingers, so he couldn't be in the movie anymore.
The suit that Clint was talking about earlier that had the Palmer's chocolate Easter bunny eyes. That is the suit that first showed up in Monster Zero. That's the 1965 suit, which at this point had been used a bunch of times and was kind of falling apart. So they just used it as the water tank suit. And that's the only time Haruo Nakajima, who generally plays Godzilla, was in this movie, because they needed Godzilla to be taller to tower over Minya to make Minya look like a child. So the suit they built, because Nakajima was a really short little dude, so they got a professional baseball player to start playing Godzilla in the taller suit. That was Seiji Onaka, but they were doing a stunt and he broke some of his fingers. So he got replaced partway through filming by Hiroshi Sakita, who was a much more seasoned suit performer. He was Sanda in War of the Gargantuas. He was Ibra in Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, Gorosaurus, and Mechanicong in King Kong Escapes. But that baseball player, Onaka, he did show up in a few other sci-fi movies out of suit. Either of you seen Rodan, the original 1956 Rodan?
Yeah, it's been so long that I don't remember anything about it, but I do know I've seen it.
Okay, so he's just a blink and you'll miss it thing, but that couple who are honeymooning on Mount Fuji in the crater because that's a fucking honeymoon spot, I guess.
Right.
And they get eaten by Rodan. The guy is Onaka, who played Godzilla in this movie. Well, started to until he broke his hand. Yeah.
So yeah, the suit thing's kind of weird. It kind of throws you off at the beginning, and then it gets better. The other thing that this film is known for is it had the first female writer in the Godzilla franchise. There was a writer on this film that was a female, the first one in the which it's early in the 60s, but that's important that there's a female writer on a Godzilla film.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask a question, and this is sort of related to what you just said, but are all the Godzilla films, is the dialogue and the music kind of quirky and like ill-fitting?
No.
That's not a dig. It's an honest question, because especially the music, and then the dialogue was just, like in the beginning of Son of Godzilla, they're in the plane and they're like, oh, it's a storm. They're like, oh, what's that? Oh, it's Godzilla. Turn left. Okay, we're safe now. And it was just very just kind of awkward and clunky. Are all of the movies filled with that?
I mean, a lot of the clunkiness probably comes from the dub. And did you watch this on HBO Max?
Tubi.
The dub version that's streaming available now is the Toho International dub, which is not as good as the old Tetra Studios one. Because when this came to America, it was put directly to television. It didn't get a theatrical release. But typically, when a Godzilla movie would be imported over here, Toho would commission a dub from typically a company in Hong Kong, because they had a lot of English-speaking people in Hong Kong who also had kind of Asian accents, which is terrible, but they still wanted to keep that flavor. But they typically were very stodgy, because I watched the dub on this one too, this go around, and I'd never seen the international dub before, and boy, it's not very good. So if you can see the old American International dubs that were done by Tetra Studios, so you got people like Paul Frees, legendary voice performer, cartoons, Disney's Haunted Mansion, all that kind of stuff. The old dubs are better, but those are kind of getting harder to come by because of this weird rights issue thing.
It's more so than just lost in translation as it gets passed on to someone else to make it presentable for someone else. It's not that because you said that a new writer came in and took the helm. It's not because of that. It's just lost in translation as it goes down the line. Okay.
So you didn't like Masaru Sato's score, huh?
No, I'm huge. I'm huge on music going along with what's going on. And although they were on an island, and I kind of got the island feel from it, and I know it's the '60s, so everything is da 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 da. It just was ill-fitting. It didn't mesh well for me.
I love the score to this movie. A few years ago at G-Fest, there were a series of concerts over 3 different festivals where they had a orchestra perform. So I got to hear a suite of the music from this movie performed by I want to say it was like a 64-piece orchestra. Oh, it was phenomenal. And especially that piece at the end where the island is being covered by the snow, and it's that real soft.
So sad.
Haunting. Yeah, that's a beautiful piece of music. That might be the most emotionally touching piece of music in the whole franchise to me, honestly.
I'll give this to you. I will go back just to hear that music, because I'm talking more about the intro music. By the end of this movie, I wasn't paying attention to much. I was just kind of like, okay, it's over.
I mean, most of the music in the Showa era of Godzilla movies were done by Akira Ifukube, who did that's the music everyone thinks of when they think of Godzilla. There were a couple other composers. Richiro Manabe did a couple of even much, much goofier ones than this. He did Godzilla vs. Megalon and Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster. But Sato's music is a lot more jazzy. Like Ifukube's music is very just bombastic, thundering, classical, Hall of the Mountain King type shit. And Sato did a lot of jazz. So you've got that, like you're saying, it's the 60s, so everything's kind of got this bop going on to it. But his style fits the Island movies especially really, really well. But I think his best work for the series was Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla in 1974. To me, Mechagodzilla is the one monster who has an even more badass theme song than Godzilla himself.
You're selling it to me, because again, I think for me to enjoy anything from this franchise, that's where I'm going to go dive into. And if you're saying it's got an awesome score.
When we get done here, I'll send you a clip that's just Mechagodzilla's first appearance, unloading all this insane firepower on Godzilla with this just badass jazz. It's still jazzy, but it's like, I don't know. You'll see.
It's like that film noir jazz, right? Yeah.
No, it's real swinging. It's I don't know. I'll just send it to you later. I don't know how to describe it. I don't have a good music vocabulary to describe what the sound is.
What were you going to say, Brian?
Well, I wanted to cover Godzilla vs. Biollante, but it's not streaming anywhere. I mean, I own it. I'm sure Brian Clark owns it, but it's not, in your physical media catalog there, Clint. It's on Internet Archive, but Clint lives in Michigan, so the internet's not very good there. Because that was where we tried to watch Naked Lunch, and it took him like 5 hours to get through it because it kept buffering.
I don't know what it was, but we were trying to watch Naked Lunch, and I don't know if it's because I was screen mirroring, from my phone to the Roku, but it just buffered every 10 minutes, and it made a really hard watch even harder to watch and get into and stay fluid with.
Yeah, the screen mirroring from Archive is kind of weird. I've even had problems with that. I tried to watch another Toho movie, Secret of the Telegion, through Archive screen mirroring, and it fucked up a lot.
I think next time if I do something like that, Godzilla, I'll just watch it on my phone and not try to project it up.
Well, you watch it on your computer.
You really would like Biollante, though, I think, because that is a much darker, more serious. It's kind of a Frankenstein story in part of it. It's got a little mad science in there. And it's got, I would say, the best effects of any of the Godzilla movies. Like, Godzilla looks cooler than he ever had before or since. The suit is fantastic. The music's really cool, even though the composer is sort of Japan's version of a neo-Nazi. He's like a World War II atrocity denying super right-wing extremist kind of Looney Tune. But
it's interesting you bring up Frankenstein, because if you go to Internet Movie Database for Son of Frankenstein, or Son of Godzilla, sorry, it says here that it's also known as Frankenstein's monster, Jagen Godzilla's Sohn.
In Germany, all of the Godzilla movies and most of the Toho movies too, because I have a King Kong Escapes German poster, and that title was King Kong Frankenstein's Son. But they were all retitled as Frankenstein movies in Germany because Frankenstein was a more saleable character there. I don't know how they passed off in the dialogue if there was any rewrites to shoehorn Frankenstein into the actual plot.
Seems like that would start a fucking riot. If I go pay money to see Frankenstein and a giant lizard with Easter Bunny chocolate eyes comes out, I'm going to be like, what the fuck is going on?
And I mean, it's the classic exploitation thing of, slap a different title on a movie and sell tickets again to the people who already saw it the first time. The weirdest thing about the whole Frankenstein retitling, though, is they didn't think Godzilla would sell. So they retitled all the Godzilla movies Frankenstein. But when the Korean kaiju movie Yongari Monster from the Deep was released in Germany, they changed the title to Godzilla's Todesspranche, which translates, this is a fucking badass title, by the way, it translates to Godzilla's Fist of Death.
Sounds like a death metal album.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, Brian and I talk all the time about how Italian films do that. Like, what? Night of the Living Dead Part 9? Oh, what is this?
Oh, it's just Bruno Mattei's Hell of the Living Dead again. Fuck.
Oh, yeah, I didn't feel like this would be Clint's favorite Godzilla film ever, but it's one that I enjoy. It's one that Finley loves. I have great memories of it. It's not the worst Godzilla movie ever. I mean, there's some of the Godzilla movies that you would probably like more because they're just batshit crazy and screaming. And what's the one, Godzilla 2000? Is that the one that's got the American actor that's got the big mustache? He just screams through the whole movie.
Oh, no. That's you're thinking of Godzilla Final Wars with Don Fry.
He'd probably love that one too. It's fine, but I'm just like, oh.
I don't know. That movie is kind of loose.
I watched a little bit of Godzilla 2000. I've referenced that on the show before, and I didn't enjoy that because, first of all, I did not appreciate the P. Diddy Led Zeppelin crossover music. I just didn't, and that's okay. Everybody's different. Just
That's the 1998 Matthew Broderick one. Don't besmirch the great Godzilla 2000s with that god awful American remake.
They're going to invite me to a Godzilla con. They're going to invite me to G-Fest, and I'm just going to get my ass beat in the fucking parking lot. There's the guy, get him. But so that's the one I'm talking about that I didn't enjoy, the Matthew Broderick one. And I was going into it expecting Godzilla, and I got Jurassic Park, and I was just like, I didn't even finish it.
You're not alone there. Nobody likes that movie.
I was going to say, does anybody enjoy that?
Sweet. I'm not going to get my ass beat anymore. Awesome. I love it.
And I mean, I get Godzilla's not for everybody. Just like the new Godzilla -1. It's a beautiful film. It's a great story. Just happens to have a Godzilla attached to it, and he's in there for a little bit. But it wouldn't be something that I would show somebody that's just getting into Godzilla.
Why not? You showed me Son of Godzilla. How did you ever expect me to return to this fucking franchise when you're like, why don't you watch Baby Dinosaurs?
He does kind of look like Baby from the Dinosaurs TV show, doesn't he?
Yeah. Walks around and sounds like him a little bit. I will say this. Once I realized that I was watching a comedy, I did enjoy some of the stuff where Godzilla was trying to teach Godzilla's son how to do certain things. And you saw Godzilla get frustrated and go, and stuff like that. So, and watching the kids stumble around, there was I didn't laugh out loud, but I appreciated the attempt at the humor.
Great little human moments with the monsters. That's when he's trying to teach him how to breathe fire and he just gets fed up and stomps on his tail. But then anytime things get serious and Kumanga comes, Godzilla might give tough love because, he's still a monster. When Minya is in danger, he's still going to wade into the fray and help out his kid. And when he's trying to get off the island at the end and Minya can't make it, so he just turns around and sits back down with him in the snow and puts his arms around him and that protective hug so that they can hibernate together and Minya won't feel, that music. The end of this movie is so beautiful. I love it so much.
Just go to the end of the movie, watch that. Watch the part where they're making the vegetables with the guy's laundry.
I've watched this movie I don't know how many times since I first saw it when I was 8 or whatever when I got the VHS, and I have never been able to figure out how they're using this sort of weird broadleaf spinachy type of plant to wash their clothes with. Wouldn't that just make everything grass stained? I don't understand that.
Wait. That's the part of this movie you've been trying to make sense of?
Well, the rest I can go along with because it's science fiction, it's fantasy, if it's a little weird, whatever, but you're doing laundry with spinach as the detergent.
I remember when I was younger, my aunt who lived in California sent her mother, my grandmother, this laundry detergent, and it had like 4 ingredients, and it had this fresh grass scent smell. It was some West Coast kind of hippie, small business type thing, and I loved it.
All natural kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's probably how Tiffany cooks my spinach because she does not like canned spinach. So she probably puts a pair of my boxers in with it. Like, here, eat your fucking spinach.
There you go, everybody. Godzilla wears boxers.
If he's cooking their spinach in the laundry water by accident,
that's what he was doing.
The way it's presented, it makes it sound like they were using the spinach to do their laundry. It's a very, like Clint was talking about, part of the script not making any sense.
I think he said it was the bath. So they take a bath in it, they do their laundry in it, and this guy's cooking the spinach in it. So it's just maybe like for everything.
I do know that no one seemed mad about it. They just all laughed and thought it was funny and said, I guess we're having stewed vegetables again tonight. I hope the praying mantis doesn't come kill us. Should we rate this thing? Or you got something else there?
No, we should rate it because I'm going to go have some stewed spinach here in a minute.
I'm going to have a spinach salad. That does sound good.
Should I go first? No, I don't want spinach.
You don't want me to.
Like I said, Finley loves this movie. I love this movie because of the sheer memories. I don't think it's the worst Godzilla movie. And I'm going super high just because I have this bond with my daughter who we both love this movie. I'm going 9 out of 10 nights eating pizza and staying up late because that's what we did. We ordered a Casey's Taco Pizza because that's what she wanted. We stayed up midnight, 1 o'clock watching this movie and ate taco pizza. Probably a little high on the rating, but that's what I'm going to give it.
No, I'm right there with you. I think I too would give Son of Godzilla a 9. Because to give it a 10 is like a perfect movie, but there aren't too many Godzilla movies I would rate below an 8 or a 9 because I love all of them. I'm kind of biased. I'm the Godzilla lunatic. This one's a blast. I love the score. I love the monsters. I love the characters. I love all of it. 9 out of 10 for me too. 9 out of 10 Palmer chocolate Easter bunny eyes.
Easter's coming. And he has risen. Godzilla rose out of the water. Sorry, that was really bad. I'm going to say that I'm glad that we're all friends. I'm glad that we're all professionals. I'm glad that we're all adults so we can disagree and still, when we get done recording, have a conversation about music or anything else and enjoy each other's company because I appreciate Bryan's connection with it, Bryan Godzilla and your daughter. Bryan Clark, I appreciate all your great stories and your connection with the franchise, and you as a fan, and I said aficionado the last time you were on, having this journey and meeting the stars and being a part of something that you really enjoy. I think this is a great Godzilla film if you're trying to introduce your kid to Godzilla. If you're a fan and you want to get your kid into Godzilla, that's great. I thoroughly enjoyed the spider. I love the praying mantis, so I appreciated the puppeteering, the practical effects. The film quality was really good. This is not a film, in my opinion, that you introduce to someone other than a young child to get them into the franchise. I did not enjoy the film, and that is my rating. I'm not going numbers. I'm just going to say I did not enjoy the film, but there is a whole hell of a lot about it I appreciate, and actually talking to you guys, I appreciate a little bit more, but if I revisit Godzilla again, it's going to be Mechagodzilla.
Would you watch this or Demoniacs?
Demoniacs.
Really?
Wow. Okay.
Wow. Oh, he gave that like a 2.
I think it wound up with a 4, didn't it?
Oh, okay.
Apparently that's what I do here is just come on and Stockholm Syndrome people into like
Demoniacs.
better than they did before.
Godzilla's sitting there going, well, I'm the one who picked the movie, and come to find out, behind the scenes, Clark's over going, pick Son of Godzilla so Clint will like Demoniacs. We can agree to disagree, and there's a lot of things about it I appreciated. And your guys' connection with it is awesome, but it's just not for me.
So would you rather watch Demoniacs or check out our podcast network, the PFPN?
Oh, check out the podcast network, the PFPN. And listen to some people talk about Demoniacs.
Should we hear from them then? Or should we go watch Demoniacs?
Wait, is the 4K out yet?
Not yet.
No, not yet. Coming later this year.
We'll hear from the PFPN then.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.
What are you talking about? I'm the one who's got to worry about getting my ass beat if I go near a Godzilla convention now, and you're sitting there going, everything's fine.
I'm sure there's probably, maybe not a ton of people, but there are a lot of people that love Godzilla that look down on this portion of the franchise.
Actually, I was going to say this while we were recording, and I forgot, but on the Internet Movie Database, I didn't read the whole thing. It was a blurb, and it was something to the effect of that most people did not care for this film. A lot of people trash talk it, which is sad because I do see a lot of the good, but...
The Island movies are getting a little more, in the last 5 or 10 years, they've kind of gotten a bit of a reevaluation, and people like them more now. But yeah, for the longest time, this and Sea Monster were just derided as being dumb and cheap.
I like Sea Monster too. I mean,
Sea Monster's awesome. Yeah.
Do you think they're now cast in a better light because of Skull Island and Kong vs. Godzilla? Because there's this new imagining of that style.
Well, I think there's this really weird disconnect between MonsterVerse fans and people who like the Japanese Godzilla movies. Godzilla fandom is not something I like to take part in a lot because they're kind of awful online. People are now bullying the creature designer from Legendary who made Godzilla pink, sending him threats and shit on Instagram. They're awful.
That's so stupid. Just turn it off if you don't want to watch it,
But a lot of the people who love the Legendary movies think the old Toho movies look dumb and cheesy, and they only want to see the big dumb CGI Technicolor vomit bullshit, and it's makes me sad. I mean, I have fun with the Legendary movies, but they're not the same. They're not as good.
No, but you kind of know what you're getting. You're going in, and I've told people this, it's a Marvel Godzilla movie.
Yeah, exactly. The Godzilla people who just rag on Marvel and Disney stuff, Star Wars, whatever, and it's like, well, these are the same. Like, it looks just like a superhero movie, except it has a monster instead of Thor or whatever.
You're going to get 20 minutes of, oh, my kid might get lost or die. And, and then you get an hour and 10 minutes of Godzilla destroying everything, looking cool, having pink fire breath. King Kong has a power glove with a little King Kong.
Which I hope they lean into the craziness as much as it looks like, because this does look pretty loopy. And I think the pink Godzilla looks neat.
Yeah, I don't care what color he is.
I like that design, but
I'm just going to have a fun time and see Godzilla.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I'm not counting on a good story or anything. I just want to go eat popcorn and watch Godzilla tear shit up.
Y'all have a good time.
This was rewritten at the last minute to have Godzilla in it because originally Legendary's agreement with Toho lapsed and they weren't going to have rights to Godzilla anymore. So they were going to continue the MonsterVerse as a Kong franchise, which I thought was great. Give me more monkey. We got plenty of Godzilla. Give me more monkey. And then at the last minute, for reasons I don't entirely know, renewed their license and decided to probably so they could sell more merchandise, I suppose.
And the crazy thing about it is when they take it serious, like Kong Skull Island.
Yeah, that's the best Legendary movie, easily. A
great film. I mean, it has a good story. The monsters are great. And then everything after that's kind of just like, not shit, but it's not serious. Finn and I will go. I have several trips planned with Finley to the movies. We're going to go see the Ghostbusters movie together and go see Godzilla together. I'm going to try to talk Tiffany into go and see that Late Night with the Devil.
Yeah.
Talking to Rod about like scope of horror is just so big. There's just so much you can do that we could go on for 100 fucking years with I Like It Spooky. You could go on forever, especially covering one film. But we're covering Godzilla, we're covering Green Slime, we're going to cover Dark, Last Night with the Devil. We're going to, we've gone like deep in like with Brent Edgett on gore stuff. We're all over the place with stuff.
We call that shock cinema, but no, that's I knew I wasn't, because I'm just not a Godzilla fan, and I knew I wasn't going to enjoy this film as much as you guys, but I knew that it was important to have on the show at some point, and so I'm glad we did it. Completely glad we did it, because yeah, like you're saying, Brian, there's this massive spectrum, and it's not just chainsaws and hookers and zombies and ghosts. It's everything.
And now, on with the show.
So now that we've heard from our podcast network, it's time for This Day in Horror History. And on this episode, we're covering the days March 31st to April 13th. That's a pretty important day.
A date which will live in infamy.
So on March 31st in 1939, this is one of the older movies I feel like we've gone way back though. I feel like we had one from like the late 1800s before, 1889 or some shit. Was movies even a thing then?
I don't know, but I just realized that April 13th is your birthday. Now I get it. Okay.
So in 1939, Hound of the Baskervilles on March 31st. And in 1999, The Matrix. I don't know if that's horror. And then 2006, Slither, which I love. I love Slither.
I love Slither too. And The Matrix is one of those movies. I've been on this tirade lately about watching non-horror films and finding the horror that lives within those films. And as far as I'm concerned, The Matrix is one of those films. There's a lot of horror in there. Very underlined, but it's there.
I think in any dystopian science fiction, there's an undercurrent of horror just at the state of humanity in the future.
Yeah, it's based and driven on fear.
Yeah, like we just talked about Soylent Green on Attack of the Killer podcast.
I love Soylent Green.
Hell yeah.
Now I'm really hungry. Soylent Green and spinach for lunch.
The ex's daughter is, I don't know if she's a vegan or a vegetarian, because I know there's a difference. I can't remember which definition she is. But so she'll get those impossible Whoppers, whatever. And just whenever I hear about it or I happen to see him or be around him, I'm always like, Soylent Green is people. Put the burger down, you're eating people.
And then on April 2nd in 1980, we get Inferno by Dario Argento. In 81, we get The Last Shark. In 82, we get Silent Rage, which we covered on episode 44 with our friend Josh Perlmutter.
Absolute classic Silent Rage. And what is The Last Shark? I don't know the joke. Why did you laugh?
That's the Italian Jaws exploitation movie that is so close to Jaws that Universal literally sued it out of existence for 30 years, and it just recently was put back out.
Yeah, I've seen clips. I know what you're talking about now. I didn't know that was the title.
It's also called Great White sometimes. It's got a couple different titles, but
it's better than, what was the one we covered from when we did the Severin Films double feature?
Deep Blood. That movie is, for a Joe D'Amato movie, it's fucking boring. There's it's not sleazy. It almost feels like a TV movie.
That's what we said when we covered it, yeah.
After we were like, this is the after school Jaws edition. Yeah.
Well, and then I don't know if you had heard or if you remember that episode, Bryan Clark, but we covered two films, and the other one they were both directed by him, and the other one was, I forget the title. What was it, Bryan?
I remember the episode, but I can't remember what movie it covered. But I mean, I love Joe D'Amato. He's one of my favorite Italian directors.
It was completely different films. One was about
Was it Anthropophagus?
It was the kid and his parents were dead, and he was killing women, and he had the maid who was trying to get his family fortune.
He was a taxidermist.
Buio Omega, Beyond the Darkness. Yeah, that movie is ultra sleazy.
Oh, I love that movie. And it was such a contrast, though. And then we're like, oh, now we're going to watch this fucking shark movie. Okay, what's going on here?
I mean, there are a lot of great Italian shark movies. You just picked the one that's fucking terrible.
I was going to make a joke like, oh, kind of like Son of Godzilla, but I'm not going to do it. That's not nice.
Well, we didn't really pick them. We met our friend Matt Harding at one of the conventions, and I was like, if we cover some movies, what should we cover? And he's like, take this and take this. And he gave us copies of the two movies. So I was like, okay, if you're going to give us copies of the movies,
yeah, for sure,
we'll cover them any day.
And by the time we got to Deep Red, we realized the joke he was playing on us.
Yeah. Let's see here. On April 6th in 2007, you get the Grindhouse double feature, which we covered.
Awesome.
One of those movies on episode 51.
Planet Terror.
Which is the better of the two films, I feel like. But neither of them's bad. I just like Planet Terror better.
Agree. So there's, I know we're talking horror history, but isn't there horror future? Something really cool happening on April 6th?
Yeah, but I was going to save that for the next segment.
Oh, I'm just setting it up for you. Now people are interested. They're like, what? I got to pay attention and listen. Something cool is going on April 6th? Stay tuned to find out. Back to history.
April 11th. In 1986, we get The Toxic Avenger. Also in 1986, Critters. That'd be a cool double feature. 97, we get Anaconda. And in 2003, a movie that's really grown on me lately. Watched it a couple times lately because the first time I watched it, I did not like it. House of a Thousand Corpses.
I love that flick. I like Devil's Rejects a lot better, but...
I do too, but yeah, the first couple times I watched House of a Thousand Corpses, I was like, no, I don't like this. And I love Devil's Rejects, but it's grown on me.
I ate House of a Thousand Corpses up in the theater on opening night like a starved kid with a big bowl of cereal. I was just, give me more. I love it. I love it. I love it. But by the time it got to Three from Hell, and I like Devil's Rejects, Three from Hell was just kind of like, what is this rushed ass, nonchalant shit? So, Bryan Clark, I don't know how often you listen. A lot of times.
I listen to every episode.
Oh, cool. So
not necessarily all of the satellite shows, but the main show I always listen.
Well, we very much appreciate it. I guess we have to have him back on now for sure, don't we? But
now that I've sucked up to you.
Yeah, right. But no, so then you know that a lot of times when the horror history comes on, some of the stuff's cool, some of it's but this right here, this list that you're rattling off, almost all of it is awesome. I don't have an issue with any of those films. They're all great. Yay, spring.
April 13th, Friday the 13th, the final chapter in 1984. And probably, I'm looking at this list, maybe Slither, Silent Rage. Probably the funnest movie in 1994, Serial Mom, which I just watched at the Capitol Theater last year for Mother's Day in Burlington, Iowa, and had a blast with. It's just a fun movie.
The Serial Mom's fun, but there's no comparing the fun you're going to have between Serial Mom and The Toxic Avenger. Come on now.
Yeah, a lot of cool stuff this 2 weeks. So spring's a time for cool movies to come out. And it's my birthday.
And we want to hurry up and get to what's going on so Bryan can tell you what the fuck is going on.
So I have two things going on early in April other than my birthday. I get to see Joe, Bob, and Darcy again. I'm going to Panic Fest in Kansas City. I'm going to watch Night of the Comet 40th anniversary. It's presented by Joe Bob Briggs at Panic Fest in Kansas City. And on April 6th, we're doing a double feature again at the Capitol Theater in Burlington, Iowa.
Ireland? I know today's St. Patty's Day, but how much green beer have you had this morning, sir?
Not nearly enough. No corned beef and cabbage yet either. Our friends from TerrorVision are bringing some movies to Iowa. We have Blood Car, and we have the Japanese movie Slashers. I was going to say slasher film, but that's the name of the movie. Slashers. $8 a person to get in. Doors open at 6. Movies roll at 7. Justin Beam, our friend, is going to be there slinging some TerrorVision stuff. I'll be there with the table for the podcast, chatting, selling some t-shirts. Just hanging out and watching movies I've never seen before. I almost watched them the other day, but I was like, oh, I just want to save them for the big screen.
Save it for the event.
Have you seen either of them, Bryan Clark?
I have not, no. And I wish I could get to this. Burlington's like 3 hours, 3.5-ish hours away from me. It's a long haul. We went down there to see Joe Bob a couple of years ago, but don't get down there too often. I wish it was closer.
I don't want to hear it. I'm getting ready to make a 9-hour fucking trek to be there.
Well, then I'm just a poser, I guess.
It's a 50-50 if I'm going to make it. But I'll tell you what, I haven't seen either film, but I did watch the trailer for Blood Car, and that movie looks like a lot of fun, especially with a big group of people. Yeah, I'm excited to, and if I can't make it down, then I'm going to watch that film anyway. Then I'll check out Slashers.
Yeah, but if it goes well, which I hope it does, you know, we have friends that work at TerrorVision. We have friends that work for Severn Films. So maybe some Severn Films will be making its way to Burlington, Iowa. And it sounds like they're going to come back to Galesburg again this year. I think Severn has some of those, is it Paul Naschy films that they have?
Nope, Severn did. That's Mondo Macabro does the Paul Naschy movies.
Who does Severn have that's really sleazy?
Well, they do a lot of Joe D'Amato stuff. They put out that phenomenal Black Emanuelle box set. They just did a great underappreciated Italian horror flick called Spider Labyrinth. That's fantastic. They just put out Antonio Margheriti's Alien from the Deep, which is a really weird mishmash of a little bit of cannibal movie with some ripoff of James Cameron's The Abyss with a giant 25-foot tall alien monster fighting a articulated loader tractor at the end of the movie. It's awesome.
They just said, let's toss everything together.
Yeah, pretty much.
Shake it up. I know one thing they do have is a movie called Cemetery Man.
Yeah.
Love that movie.
Maybe I'll shoot my shot with Matt and be like, I think Cemetery Man would look great at the Orpheum Theater.
I would love to see that in the big screen. I've seen it multiple times in the small screen. And I actually, Bryan, I can't wait for you to see that because I know you're going to appreciate the movie, but I don't know how you're going to deal with the ending. And so I'm curious for you to see that.
And they could double feature it with the Emanuelle movie where a woman jerks off a horse.
Oh, I don't know if the Orpheum would give us clearance for that, but
when you say that, I'm trying to think how and why those movies would meld. But then I was like, it doesn't matter. A woman jerking off a horse goes with any fucking movie. So yeah, you're right. Yeah.
That's probably the first time that topic has come up in a conversation people were having about Son of Godzilla.
Only here on the I Like It Spooky Horror podcast. Yeah.
So what do you got? Anything, Clint? We'll save our guest for last.
Gosh, let's see here. Hold on. I usually have up my calendar by now, and I am slacking. That's the time. This is the dates. So this goes to the 13th, huh?
Yeah.
I've got a concert coming up. This is nothing horror related, but I am going to go on the west side of the state and see AJ Croce, and it's Croce plays Croce. It's Jim Croce's kid. Jim Croce's passed away. His kid is who is older than myself. I shouldn't refer to him as his kid. He's his own person, his own artist. He puts out his own independent music, but this is a show just him covering his father's music. So I'm going to go see that. And then a few days after that, I'm still trying to figure out if I'm going to make it down to the double feature at the Capitol in Burlington, Iowa. I'm planning on it, but I got to wait and see how things line up. Well, here's something else to mention. This is kind of fun. Is as soon as we are done recording here right now, I'm going to get off the phone, go get cleaned up, and I'm going to the high school with the youngest and her friends so we can watch the high school's rendition of Guys and Dolls. So we're going to go support some local theater and check that out. Other than that, nothing's really jumping out at me. Just the same old stuff I'm always staying busy with and talking about.
To the movies. You going to go to the movies?
Well, yeah, we could talk about that. I'm going to go see Late Night with the Devil. I'm going to see Ghostbusters. Next weekend, I've got, like, I think one day I'm going to go see Late Night with the Devil. And then, like, the next day, I'm going to go see Ghostbusters. And, of course, Easter's coming up, so we got to drop that in there somewhere. And oh, yeah, that's the other thing. So this will happen before this episode airs, but a week from yesterday, as of this recording, Boots is going to have her friends over for the big D&D party. I talked about that before. She got into D&D at the high school, and the program's kind of fallen to the wayside. It always interferes with theater. The parent who shows up to kind of help guide them is always sick and never there. So I said, hey, we've got the room. Have everybody over here. We went and got her some starter packs so they can, more thoroughly plan out their games. I don't want to say missions. I don't understand D&D fully, but equip them to better play and have some fun. So that's going to happen a week from now. So I guess I am pretty fucking busy. I need a nap.
When you're talking about D&D, I just think of Finley, like being the dungeon master and the other people beating the dungeon master and her just like grabbing behind her and like slamming Godzilla on the table. And then Godzilla comes in and crushes everybody and you all fucking lost because she's a cheater. She hates to lose and she's 5. And I feel like it's only going to get worse.
You brought that up and something I forgot to mention about Son of Godzilla. And I don't know if it's like this in the other Godzilla films, but whoever choreographed the fight scenes between the monsters must have been a fan of professional wrestling, because all Godzilla does is punch people in the face and body slam them.
Well, professional wrestling is huge in Japan.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. It would have been cool if there was a flaming table and pile of thumbtacks, but
choke slam them through.
Yeah.
So what about our guest? Does our guest have anything going on?
Not too much. I guess I can throw out a plug to J.R. Bookwalter, who I mentioned at the top of the show. When I went to see Dead Next Door up in Minneapolis, that wasn't the main reason he was there. He's actually, through this spring and summer, road showing his new movie, Side Effects May Vary. They were showing it on the Tuesday up there, so I couldn't turn around and get back up to the cities because it's like a 2+ hour drive for me to get up there, and it was in the middle of the work night and all. But so just look up J.R. Bookwalter on either his website or Facebook or whatever, and you'll be able to find the dates where you can go meet him and see his new movie. And he's a super nice guy. We got to talk to him a little bit before the movie, and just a real swell fella.
Now, if they look up Bryan Clark, he's an author.
Yeah. I do that sometimes.
Your books are on Amazon?
Yep. You can get Putting the Ground to Sleep and Other Weird Tales, which is a short story collection, and Beast from Haunted Cave, which is a novelization of Monty Hellman's first movie, directed for Gene and Roger Corman as producers. They're on Amazon. You can get physical copies. They're free to read if you have Kindle Unlimited. That Dreamhaven that I mentioned, they have a website, and they have copies of it, so you can, they do mail order, so you can buy them from there. Or I've got some copies if for some reason you wanted me to scribble in them. You can find me on Facebook, and I can hook you up with that. And check out Adversion, which is a death metal band that I did some voiceover work for. Their album, if you look up Sewer Rot Records on Bandcamp, and you'll be able to find them. You can get CD. I think there might be some of the vinyl left, maybe not. That was pretty limited, or MP3 download.
Bryan Clark has shared some of that music with me, and musically their sound, I enjoyed what I heard. As soon as I get my stuff up and running here, the stuff I got going out here, the entertainment complexes I'm working on, I'm going to have to wholesale purchase some of your books or something so we can have them in the shop and sell some out here in Michigan too.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll have to come visit the haunt when you get everything all set up too.
I don't know. It's a long drive. I don't know. It might be too long of a drive for you.
Oh, come on.
I'll fly you in. How's that?
It's like 9 hours to Michigan. 8 or 9. I can make it.
I bet you if I was having a Godzilla convention, you'd come.
Oh, you sound so hurt when you said that. Now you made me feel bad.
No, actually, I felt bad because I know that I'm never going to have a Godzilla convention there, but...
No Godzilla convention.
Although there is no Godzilla convention at the places that I'm doing, that you can still check out the I Like It Spooky Horror podcast and all of the other great shows in the PFPN that Bryan Clark is also a part of from time to time. Everywhere you download podcasts.
They're good?
We've turned our ending of the shows into these giggle fests of just nonsense. But now we have this expectation.
Yeah, we're not laughing now. Godzilla is no laughing matter, Clint.
No, the ending of the movie was so fucking somber. So the ending of this episode is going to be somber. Bryan Clark, thank you for coming on and helping me appreciate Son of Godzilla a little more. Bryan Godzilla did not do much of helping me appreciate the film more, but you, sir, did. So
I am nothing if not an ambassador for giant lizards. Thank you guys for having me. And I'm 0 for 2 on this show now. So if you, for some reason, ever decide to have me back again, we will have to cover something just ultra sleazy and disgusting and just wallow in the pits of exploitation. And maybe I can redeem myself in your eyes a little bit. How's that sound?
feel dirty already, and I'm fucking excited.
I want a shirt that says I'm an ambassador for giant lizards.
Are they going to have arrows pointing down after the word lizard?
No.
Oh, okay.
Take care, everybody. Bye.
Till next time.
Hey, what's wrong with you, man? Show some fucking respect for the dead, will ya?